My brother refused to tell my daughter where her inhaler was because he didn't want to spoil her, and now he's furious because I called him the one word he despises the most. Like my daughter, I was also the youngest of 3 and the only girl. I love my dad, but I now know and understand that many of his behaviors weren't healthy. He had an obsession with his kids being tough and got angry at us if got sick, got hurt, or cried. I once broke my ankle playing volleyball, and he thought I was making it up for attention, so I walked around on a broken ankle for 3 days. He was also physically abusive to my mom and to us kids, i.e., striking us, giving us the belt, and throwing things at us. It was difficult to come to terms with this because my dad was amazing in many ways, but I know now some of the things he did were unacceptable and impacted all of us. Sometimes, with my kids, I worry that I am going too far in the opposite direction. I never yell at them and have difficulty punishing them. Luckily, they're pretty well behaved. My boys are much more go with the flow and rambunctious, but my little girl is incredibly emotional and sensitive, and she's 100% the baby of the family. She also has severe asthma, and it causes her a lot of anxiety. We've had to take her to the ER several times, and she's even had to stay for several days on 2 separate occasions. My daughter has a lot of anxiety due to her asthma and likes to know where her inhaler is at all times. For me, have to lay with her until she falls asleep because her wheezing and coughing sometimes get worse at night. My husband and I have taken her to specialists and even to a psychologist to help her manage some of this anxiety. I was at dinner with my older brother and his wife a few months ago. We were describing our daughter's asthma and her anxiety, and he commented how we baby her and how it might get better if we stop fussing over her so much. Basically, she's making it up for attention. My husband, who is a doctor, explained that she isn't milking it, and that this is a legitimate physical illness. My brother and his wife didn't seem to believe us, and I was annoyed then, but I let it go. Last weekend, my husband planned a weekend getaway for our anniversary. My brother and his wife offered to watch our kids, and they were excited to stay with their cousins. I gave my brother and sister-in-law specific instructions on how to handle asthma, and they said they'd take care of it. We left on Friday, and I got a panicked call from my oldest son on Sunday. He told me my brother wasn't giving my daughter her medication because she could live without it for a day. My son told me my daughter was extremely anxious and crying. I called my mother-in-law and told her to pick up my children immediately, and my husband and I drove back immediately. Luckily, my daughter didn't have an asthma attack, and although she had some wheezing, her symptoms weren't out of control. Still, my mother-in-law, husband and I were livid. My mother-in-law said my daughter was crying and extremely anxious when she picked her up, and asked for her inhaler right away. I honestly had to convince my husband not to go over there and let my brother have it right then and there. We certainly will never leave our kids with them unsupervised ever again, and I can't describe how upset I am with my brother. He asked us to meet to discuss things, and my husband and I reluctantly went to his house. I told my brother that what he did was unacceptable, that my daughter could have had an asthma attack that would require hospitalization, and that his behavior caused her a ton of anxiety. He said he was right because she was fine without it for a day. I told him that his behavior towards my daughter was abusive, not only because of the physical risk but because of her clear emotional distress over the situation, verified by my boys and mother-in-law. My daughter has been hospitalized several times, and her biggest fear is needing an inhaler and not having it / not being able to breathe. My brother lost it and accused me of slandering him and asked how I could call him that when we lived through actual abuse. He also said that my education made me lose all my common sense and that I'm destroying my daughter by babying her so much. My husband and I left immediately and haven't spoken to my brother since. Yesterday, my sister-in-law called and said my brother was upset. I used the term abusive and said I owed him an apology for that, but he acknowledged he was wrong not to give my daughter her inhaler. Was I the asshole for saying that, or is my sister-in-law right? I just can't stop thinking about what might have happened to my daughter, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive him.